Whose vision board was it originally? You know, I think it's God that gives us the vision. It's no surprise the things that will be on our vision board.
The vision is cool, but the one who gives the vision is even more important. I think we can be, it's possible for people to be so obsessed and attached to the vision rather than the giver of the vision. So for me, if I hold on to God, He's the one that will take me there, and along the journey, the bumps, the waves, the rides, it might not be smooth as I would like it to be because I know God is in control.
I think also there's a sense sometimes of us having the understanding that we are the one carrying that vision. So sometimes what makes sense to us and what feels like the right step sometimes looks crazy to other people.
Yes, people will be with you when it's grand and there's now the success, but on that journey it's quite lonely, and that's something I always have in the back of my mind. So I never ever look at someone's journey and be like, I don't want their journey because I don't know what they had to endure to get there.
Thank you so much for being a part of our growing community. It honestly is just such an honour and such a dream to see how Magnify is growing. For anyone who's new to our channel, Magnify is a network, community and platform focused on empowering ambitious women of faith to thrive in our various spheres of influence.
And we know how important it is to have safe, honest, authentic conversations as women of faith. And so we want to provide a space to do that.
My name is Ruth and I'm the founder and CEO of Magnify.
And my name's Rachel and I'm part of Team Magnify. We'll be your hosts and we'll also be featuring guests each time.
So if you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and most importantly, share with a friend who you think would benefit.
Today on the Magnify podcast, we are joined by Rachel Otto and Georgia Kirkland. Rachel is a content creator focused on fashion and lifestyle. Since 2014, she's made YouTube videos sporadically, but in 2021, she decided to consistently put out content, and as a result, her community has grown exponentially. At Magnify, we love the laser focus Rachel shows in pursuing her goals and, of course, the daily fashion inspo. Georgia is an actress and filmmaker, and she's also recently founded Daughters of Eve, a platform inspiring young women to live the fullest life of courage and faith. At Magnify, we're big advocates for embracing all of our facets and interests, so we really admire how Georgia does that in her work. So today we're going to be talking about what do we do when life does not look like your vision board. So a good place to start would be, and I think with you, Rachel, first of all, do you have a vision board? And what is it, right? So what is a vision board? What do you think is the purpose of it? Tell us a little bit.
So I've had a vision board in the past. Currently, I don't have one, but I've had one in the past, and I think they're good. I think they're useful. Right now, what I do is I write down my vision. So I'm very big on writing, journaling. So my goals, the visions, the things I want to achieve, they're written down for me. I have nothing against vision boards. I've used them in the past, but for me, there's multiple ways you can create that vision board per se. For me, it's writing it down. I know people that have made their vision boards like online on a PowerPoint and then used it as like their background on their phone. So there's multiple ways to have a vision board. There's no one set way for me, in my opinion. But
What about you, Georgia? Do you have a vision board?
I think I need just one. I have many for different things, but I was the type of person that even as a child, I would make a little PowerPoint to my parents about why I wanted to be an actor and that I needed an agent right now. And so, I think I just love anything that's visual is a good reference. Or if I'm directing a film, I love to just gather images and see what works. And I think you get inspired that way too, but it's definitely it's a good way of getting what's out of your head onto paper and so other people can see.
100%.
Yeah. And for you, Rachel, how, just in your own life, in your own story and experience, how vital has it been for you to be specific with a vision? So even just with what you're doing now, with your content creation has blown up and you're doing so much more with it now. A few years ago, were you very specific in thinking about that? Was that more recent? How vital is it to be specific about a vision?
For me, it's very, very vital because I think when I had that mental shift of this is what I want my life to look like, this is the vision for my life, that's when things really began to change. So before, years back, I knew I always wanted to do fashion and be in the fashion field and industry, but I didn't have a clear vision for myself. But beginning of last year, when I had that clear vision, I wanted to grow on Instagram. I wanted to take this seriously because I felt I was good at this. I wanted people to see what I create, styling. This is what I genuinely love to share and to create. So once I had that vision in my mind, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to execute, everything else took off for me. So having that mental clarity of what my vision looked like for my life was really that catalyst to allow me to actually focus on the things I need to focus to get to that destination. It wasn't just this fluffy, puffed up idea of, I want to be this. No, it's like, I want to execute this. And then everything took off from there. So it's very, very vital in my opinion.
And what about the role? So you're a woman of faith. What about the role of faith, even in just planning that vision and like knowing what you were going for? What role has faith played in that for you, Rach?
So a massive, massive role for me. I'm a believer. Everything flows out of the faith I have in God, in Jesus Christ. So I'm very big on Habakkuk, I think it's Habakkuk 2:3. So writing the vision down, making it plain. And when I was speaking to my cousin last year, she was like, Rachel, we were talking about vision boards actually. She was like, Rachel, you need to have a vision board. You need to know the direction you want. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Let me not stop. I was very much in this case, Sarah, whatever will be, or have type of mindset. She's like, no, be specific. Tell God what you want. And I was like, you're right. So I wrote it down, created a vision board as well, wrote down the plans I had. I want to grow on Instagram, I want to grow on YouTube, I want to work with X amount of brands. And honestly, to the glory of God, I've worked with those brands that I wrote down. Within the first month, I wrote it down. And I was like, so this is all I have to do, God? Be specific, write it down. And there's something so powerful about writing down and just envisioning that thing that God has placed in your heart, because it allows you to really run with it. It allows you to have direction, focus. And again, it's almost like, for me, ultimately, I was placing that faith in God to bring it to pass. So I knew there was work for me to do, because faith without works is dead. But ultimately, I knew God was going to bring it to pass because I'm trusting him and I'm giving him the vision to take control of. So it changed completely last year when I finally had that vision.
Amazing. So Georgia, in the industry you're in, it's, I don't know, would you see that the same as Rachel? Like even with acting jobs and different things you want to do, are you very specific in your vision of what you want to see? and like, where's your faith in the middle of that as well? You know, I know you've created some new things too, but just specifically in that industry.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And I think I love the idea of really being focused in what you're asking. And, you know, I always come back to that verse in the Bible and it says, seek and you'll find, and knock on the door, be opened, and ask and it will be given. And so for me, that's really key in the sense of actually God knows the things on our hearts. He knows our desires. And I think sometimes we can be afraid to say to God, oh, this is what I'd really love to do, because, you know, it might seem contrary to what he has. But actually, I think when we hand him our desires and give them to him lightly, the things we want to do, I think it gives him room to breathe life into whatever he wants to do. And then really it's out of our hands. And with this kind of industry, it's so out of my hands. And like, it's, you know, people say, oh, you want to be an actor? Oh, good luck. You're like, actually, you know, if God's calling you there and he's given you the talent, part of it is character that grows over time. But I really think God will get you there and he'll open the right doors. And I've seen that in my life. But I think it's having the vision, but also trusting that God has a plan for your life, and his vision is even better than you could dream up for yourself. So
And do you think there's any, because we've talked about what's going well, right? But do you think there's a problem with being too attached to even just a vision board or the way that we see a vision playing out? Because, you know, quite often we see highlights of things, we see things play out well for people. And, you know, we were speaking about, like, even when you were younger, there's certain things you've loved to do. What's kind of the problem or the downfall, do you think? Or is there a downfall with becoming too attached to a vision and the way it's going to play out? What do you think, George?
Yeah, I think that's really good. And for me, as you were talking about vision boards, I was reminded that for us, it's like, whose vision board was it originally? You know, I think it's God that gives us the vision. And if he has created us with these desires and things like this, it's no surprise the things that will be on our vision board, but it's holding them lightly. And I've learned to do this. I went to film school to do directing. And when I was there, you know, you're directing this idea and you're seeing this idea come to life onto the screen, but you have to hold it so lightly because things are going to change. And in filmmaking, you're always problem solving and you're working with a team, you know, who have different ideas. And so you have to be adaptable. And so I think it's so clear, you know, as a director, you need the vision of the film, but then you have to, it's like you're climbing a mountain and you have to know there's multiple routes and multiple ways around the mountain. It's not going to be the straight up easy journey, but it might be the long way around, and that's part of the adventure.
Yeah. What about you, Rach, so far? Have you experienced where you've got the vision, but then even some steps towards that? So even just working with the brands that you'd wanted to work with, even just getting there, has that looked the way that you expected it to?
No, it hasn't, because like I was saying to you guys previously, I've been content creating for years before I finally took off last year with my Instagram platform. So the journey doesn't always look like you imagined it to look. And going back to what you said about being attached to the vision, can there be a problem with that? For me, yes, there can be, if you make that like your source of happiness and you feel like you haven't arrived in life until you're at that place, that vision that you envisioned for yourself. For me, holding on to God is more important, and the journey that he takes me to get to that place is far more important than the vision itself for me. And I never want to lose sight of the one who gives the vision, if you know what I mean. So the vision is cool, but the one who gives the vision is even more important. I think we can be, it's possible for people to be so obsessed and attached to the vision rather than the giver of the vision. So for me, if I hold on to God, he's the one that will take me there. And along the journey, the bumps, the waves, the rides, it might not be smooth as I would like it to be, because I know God is in control and I've given him full autonomy over it. I can have peace. I can have peace on the way there, on the journey there. And I've really come back to that recently in my life, where I was trying to almost go ahead of God and like, I need this to work. I need to try to do all in my own strength, get to that certain place or something I've had on my vision board for myself. But I was like, you know what? If I'm in the right place with God, if we're on the same page, if I'm really letting him lead and take control over the entirety of my life, then I'm at peace, because I know I'm on the right path. You know, his plans towards me are good. His thoughts towards me are good, you know, to give me hope and expected end. So I don't have to worry about, am I doing the right? I'm on the right path with God. So the vision is cool, but I'm with the one who gives the vision. So that to me is like the peace that I have, and it's more important than the vision itself for me personally.
That's okay. And obviously vision boards and having a vision is not necessarily a thing just for women of faith. And we know that always hard work is involved in this, and like having a strong work ethic and being willing to be consistent. But how do you strike the balance between hard work and faith? What has that looked like for you both?
Yeah, I think it's knowing that you got to be prepared, and you've got to, my dad always says, like, anything worthwhile is like going to the gym. You know, at first it's going to be hard. You're not going to see results when you look in the mirror, but you've got to be tenacious. You've got to keep the hard work up and be consistent, as you say. And with that, you will start to see results. But just as, you know, exercise can get overwhelming and all consuming at times, we have to realize we can't do on our own and our own strength. And so I think as we step out and as we use the work that we're doing, God will strengthen what's in our hands, and it comes in tandem. But I don't think you can have one without the other.
Yes, I agree. Definitely. I feel there is a bit balance to be struck, but you definitely need the hard work as well as the believing in God to really push your hard work and let it actually yield fruit for it to be productive. So in my journey, I can only talk for my journey, definitely I had to work hard. There was times I was creating content, I chose that over going out or doing certain things, but thankfully it was blessed and it worked out for me in the end. So I didn't arrive at the following I have today or the platform I have today because I wished it. I worked hard. Like that is about fail. I worked hard for it, but thankfully, you know, it worked out for me as well. So it was worth it in the end, and God definitely blessed the works of my hands. So you definitely have to have something in your hand for God to bless.
That's it.
Definitely. He'll use what you've got.
Yeah. I think for me, I don't know about you both, it's easy to look at other people who are accomplished or successful, especially in a field that we're in or we feel passionate about. And we just kind of see some of the end result, or we see the success and think, wow, that is amazing. It looked like they literally went from A to B, what seems to us like overnight.
Yeah.
And then it feels a bit like maybe it was handed to them on the plate, or maybe like they knew someone who was giving them a hand up. And I think we can, as outsiders to seeing someone else's vision unfold sometimes, we can make assumptions about how that's played out for them. What do you think are some of the dangers with only seeing the end of someone's vision come to pass?
For me, I feel like I'm the type of person, I don't look at someone's final product and be like, wow, I'm more interested in the journey, because I know for 90% of people that have done anything successful, there was a lot of work that got them to that destination. You know, for example, like a farmer, you know, people might come around when there's a big harvest, but you didn't see when he decided to plant that first seed and when he was watering and day after night toiling and making sure the ground was good. All of that work that was done beforehand was very lonely as well, probably for that farmer. But now there's this massive harvest and everyone is enjoying it. You didn't see that work beforehand, you know? So I liken that to life and what is to go on any journey, whatever path you're in, whether it's acting or the industry I'm in, content creating, or whatever job you do, there's a lot of work even to get to that certain destination. There's so much work that's done beforehand. So yes, people will be with you when it's grand and there's now the success, but on that journey it's quite lonely. And that's something I always have in the back of my mind. So I never ever look at someone's journey and be like, I don't want their journey, because I don't know what they had to endure to get there. And I don't know if I can endure that. And I think people are very short-sighted. Don't look at people's final product and be like, I wish, you don't know what they had to endure to get there.
We fixate on the end product, I think, too much sometimes. I think that can be part of the issue. And I'm so guilty of doing this, which is why I wondered both of you from your perspectives, especially when you just think, you know, I've got this vision board, or I've got this vision that's clear and I'm working hard and I'm trusting God in the middle of it, but it just doesn't seem to be playing out the same way. But there's so much of who we're becoming in the midst of that as well. How have you had experience with that, Georgia? Have you had the temptation to just look at somebody else's journey that you admire and think like, it feels like it's been handed to them, or has it been handed to them? Like, why isn't this happening for me?
Absolutely, all the time. I wish I could be as gracious as you, Rachel, but I get it all the time as an actor, especially. I'm forever looking at people on IMDb and seeing, you know, how did they get to A and B?
Origins.
Even from a young girl, I was like, Mum, I need to go to this school because that's going to get me through the door. I was very strategic, because you do have to have that kind of business mindset as an actor and as a filmmaker too. But I think it is hard, because in this industry, a lot of it is who you know, and a lot of it is the right timing, the right opportunities. And so that can be frustrating to think, why hasn't it happened? But then I also realized you might be handed, you know, this huge Netflix film, but then once you're there, it's very exposing. You have to have the work to support it. You have to have everything going for you that you've prepared for in that moment to be ready, because you'll be so exposed otherwise. And so I think when I remember that, I'm like, okay, it's always about the work. And I was just listening to an interview with Austin Butler, who was playing Elvis in the film. And his advice for actors was never make it about the end goal, always make it about the work. And so that means when you're auditioning for something, it's not just about, will I get this part, but it's about, I'm going to put everything into this audition like it's the real job. So that I can feel satisfied with myself as an artist, and then see what happens to it. And so I think when you take that mentality and put it into anything, it really becomes about the process and not just about the end goal. But I have to remind myself all the time.
I think there's so much to be said for foundation, like you said, Georgia, just that what's actually being cultivated within us on this journey. I do think we get too obsessed with formulas. Or is there a formula? So like you were saying, if I go to this certain school, if I do this certain thing, it will equal X. But I think there's so much of our journey that is non-linear, especially when working towards a vision. And there may be some like good practices and things like that. But for both of you then, just even so far, right, in some of the things that you've seen success in and that you feel, I guess, just proud of as part of your story, has there been a disillusionment at any point for either of you of like, you've done something that you were so like excited to do, you've arrived there and you've been like, it wasn't what I expected?
For me, last year, I've always been about purpose. As a fashion content creator, I'm very heavy on fashion styling, putting together looks to really convey to my audience and hoping they get it as well and influenced by that. But this year, for me, that wasn't necessarily on my vision board, was that shift for really desiring to help people and the woman behind the outfit, if you know what I mean. So so it's almost like the fickle side of content creating, like just the styling and cute pictures is like kind of dying in me. Like I love it and that's the core of me, but for me it's like really touching the hearts of women. And so now it's like, it doesn't please me anymore just to like take a nice outfit picture and post it. It's like, what else can I offer to the person who's consuming that content that can really edify and help their soul and help their day-to-day life? So for me, it's almost like my vision and the things that please me before are not pleasing me anymore. And I'm okay with that. You know, I'm okay with that. And even if that means certain people fade away that used to follow me because they didn't come or follow for this, you know. We didn't come for this philosophical Rach, we came for something else. But for me, I'm okay with that because I feel like that's really aligning me with what God would want me to do, you know. God cares about the heart, and I feel like as I'm getting closer to him, he's making me care about the things he cares about as well. So I'm very content, you know, pivoting and changing what my original vision looked like, as long as it glorifies God. So I'm okay with that.
And on that like flexibility and adaptability that you've been speaking about, Rachel, for you, Georgia, even with some of the things that you're doing in your career, you know, you started out as an actor, but you're looking at filmmaking and different Daughters of Eve, the things you're going to be starting. What kind of, you may have had a very set vision. What has flexibility and adaptability looked like? Is that okay? Have you felt like you've betrayed your vision almost? Or have you had to learn to just soften? To use your language, Rach, that was perfect. Just to soften your view on that.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think you definitely have to be adaptable. And as I said, when I was younger, I was always sure that that was the path I was going to go down. And I got to 18 and I was, like many actors, auditioning for drama school. But, you know, for a lot of people, they want you to have life experience and you know, they want you to be ready for the vigorous training you're going to go through. And so my dad was like, why don't you know, you've got the skills as a filmmaker, why don't you look at going to film school? And I always liked making films. It was something I could do well, but I thought, but this is who I am, you know. I had this whole identity crisis. And then actually I felt God like always speaks to me in pictures. And he said to me, you know, it's not a door shut on this in this particular area of your life. It's just a different season. And I said, but if I'm not an actor, who am I? And God said, you're a storyteller. It doesn't matter if you're in front of the camera or behind the camera. It's the stories that you need to realize are the priority.
Rather than just the modality of how those stories are told.
Or the format of the story. So that really was the start of a really good lesson for me in focusing now on the stories, and that's what matters. And for me, it's, you know, that feeling when you come out the cinema and you're either like, I can do anything now, I can be Wonder Woman, or you're like, why do I feel so sad? Or why am I, something's just hit me hard. And I think we don't realize the power of the filmmakers, but also, you know, the people behind the camera and in front of the camera that are making these decisions. And so for my heart is just to bring like stories that just bring truth and light, and not necessarily Christian stories, but ones that change things. And
Amazing.
So how have you where you've had disappointments just in this journey of life so far and unfolding your vision, how have you sought to deal with those in a healthy way? Because I think, again, for all of us, we can use different coping mechanisms and different things to cope when we're struggling because things aren't working out the way we hoped. What have you got any tips or thoughts on like how to deal with some of these disappointments and setbacks in your career in a healthy way?
So I feel like I can definitely relate to that even now. So for me, just really relying and finding refuge in God has been my peace, has been my anchor, has just given me total peace, because I've had seasons where everything is going perfect, just growth. Then you have seasons where you feel like you're kind of stagnant. You're like, this is not what I planned. I didn't. But in that, can you have peace? And for me, where do I go for peace? That's in God. I find refuge in him, safety in him. So even when things aren't going the way I planned, I still am steadfast. I still have a sound mind in all of that. And that's because I still have a promise in him, you know. I don't have a promise in the world or in my journey. I promise in God, you know, that he'll never leave or forsake me, that his thoughts towards me are good, that, you know, my expectation will not be cut off. So the peace that I search for will always be in God. And even when my world around me seems like it's crumbling or not going to plan, I can have like safety in him and peace. So I've had to remind myself of that, because sometimes when you're busy chasing after the goal, you get lost and you're like, why is it not going to plan? And what I did last year is working. Why isn't it working this year? Well, maybe God wants you to learn something else right now.
Yeah.
In this, maybe you've gone ahead of yourself. You've gone ahead of God, and he wants to just rein you in back. Like, wait, I was the one that took you that far. So just come back, let's walk in agreement, and then let's go again. So for me, understanding again, growth is not linear. So things won't always go in this certain way or certain path or plan, but I can really find my peace just relying and trusting God here, who's done it before. He'll do it again.
Yeah.
And I've had real peace as well, ultimately, even if he doesn't, but I know he's good and he will. My joy and source always remains in him. And that's just my life. I feel like I've totally surrendered to God, to the point where if God says, go here, I'm like, I will go, and if that's a complete change, I'm learning that I don't want my identity to be in myself. I want it to truly be in Christ.
Yeah.
And that's a real surrendered heart. And that's very scary, because you're like, Lord, wherever you go, I'll go. It's very scary.
Until he's like,
very
go over there, and you're like,
very dangerous. But I feel like until your heart is really postured like that, you can't really experience that peace that surpasses all understanding. And you only get to that place when you give up understanding, you give it up.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what, Lord, let you take control, even in the times where it feels like nothing is happening for me. And because I know God is faithful, it will happen in the end. So yeah.
And so you're saying about like finding rest and peace, practically for you, Rachel, like day to day, week to week, what does that look like for you? How do you create that space or break, or is it not space and break? Like, are there certain patterns and things or rhythms, things that you have that kind of help you to maintain that kind of clarity in the midst of everything else that you're pursuing?
So practically, it's for me, morning and night, I spend time with God. First thing in the morning, and I try to last thing at night. Sometimes I might be watching a movie, but most times at night is I spend time with God. So morning and in the evening. But during the day, meditating on his word. And when it comes to content creating, making sure the day before I've prepped everything I need to do.
Yeah.
So I don't really have to think about that. I just upload or put it up there on Instagram or whatever I need to do. So I take out the thought of the day of what I need to do. I do it the day before, which gives me less anxiety, because I hate stressing over, I need to post something. What do I post? I haven't got time for that. To give me peace the night before, the day before, I've already planned what I need to do, so that during the day I have peace. I can just upload and don't have to worry about that. At least I've done, so my manager doesn't kill me. Like, I've done what I need to do. And I try not to spend so much time on social media. So even though I'm a content creator and I'm on those platforms, I've realized that consuming too much of it really affects my mind, especially because we are human. When you see someone working with a brand you would love to work with, or doing things you would love to, it can affect you. So I safeguard myself in that way to give me peace, so I don't spend too much time consuming content and social media.
Amazing. What about you, George? Just the dealing with disappointments.
Yeah.
How have you sought to do that in a healthy way?
I think that's a great question, and something we need to really prepare ourselves for, especially in these industries. For me, I had a realization early on that it wasn't about me. And I know that that sounds easy to think, but I think, when you're so focused on the vision, you can think, okay, God has this calling on my life. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this industry. And actually, you just have to take the pressure off for a second and realize that yes, you're a vessel in this. Yes, you're a moving part, but God is going to be the one. If he wants you to be that, he's going to orchestrate it. Yes. And so it means that when things go well, it's still not about me. And when things don't go well, it's still not about me, which is great. And I think then you put the focus on the other person. And in acting, you're always putting the focus on your scene partner. And with filmmaking, it's always about the people you're working with. And I had a bit of a mountaintop experience when I was visiting LA for the first time, and I was overlooking Hollywood at the top of Griffith Observatory, which is one of my favorite places. And it was nighttime, it was all lit up. And I just started crying, and I don't know why I was crying. It was really embarrassing because I was with loads of people. And I just started to feel the Holy Spirit and God's presence. And God was just telling me, he was breaking my heart for the industry, and he said, it's not about the glamour, it's not glamorous, it's not about that, it's about the people, and I want you to walk alongside with the people. And so that's really shifted my perspective on how I get to these goals.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to win awards. Yes, I'd like to do this, that, and the other, but I really care about the people I'm with. And so when I'm on set, you know, it's always about getting to know the people, hearing their stories, and making everyone feel valued and seen. And we always can do it better, but I think that's been my focus more. And then it doesn't feel like a disappointment.
Yes.
I love
yeah.
that. Love that.
And when you've been pretty vocal about your vision and things that you want to see come to pass, obviously people then, especially friends and family, will ask you about it, right?
Yeah.
Well-meaning. And of course you want them to ask and show an interest. But when things aren't quite maybe on the timeline that you hoped they would be on, or they're perhaps not unfolding in the way that you thought they would unfold, how have you handled that conversation while still being true to your vision? So in other words, how have you been authentic while still not just negating what you really believe is the kind of some of the end goals for you in your career, especially?
For me, with family and friends, it's very easy when things are going well. Be like, what's next? What are you doing? And you have answers for that because you feel like, well, this is next.
Yeah.
But when things aren't going to plan and people are looking at you sideways now, like, are you still doing that? For me, it's remembering they don't have the vision that was given to you. It's not placed in their heart. It's placed in yours. So you also have to safeguard that as well. I feel like, and, you know, respectfully tell them, mind your business. But no, but, you know, I think for them as well, it could be the troubling fact that it's not going to their time frame and their plan for your life. So I think they might think by now you should be doing this or X, Y, and Z. But no, who says that? Who says that? That's what you believe. I'm on the journey with God to get to my expected place and my vision, and whatever his time frame is, that's fine with, and I'm working along that. So to the world and to people, it may seem like I'm crazy, I'm behind, I'm not on the right path.
Yeah.
But as long as I know that I'm on the right path with God, I'm okay. And the voices, God's report is what I believe over what other people will say.
Yeah.
So that is why I always try to keep in mind, you know what, even when it doesn't look like the world around me is going the way I want, as long as I'm doing it with God, I know it will work out in the end, even though the path seems scary to me and to others as well. And they know, I know they mean me well, but you know, that burden is not placed in their heart, it's placed in mine. So it's for me to keep, it's for me to safeguard. And again, for respectfully to tell them, don't worry, it's okay.
I think also there's a sense sometimes of us having the understanding that we are the one carrying that vision. So sometimes what makes sense to us and what like feels like the right step sometimes looks crazy to other people, or it looks, you know, if you're still doing that, so you were saying, Rachel, you're still doing that, come on, we're 10 years in now, you're not you need to get a real job now, you know, can be the sentiment. But holding on to what God said, what the vision is, and not to a level where we can't be flexible and adaptable is so massive. What about you in that, Georgia?
For me, it's always been about having childlike faith, and that's something that I feel like comes naturally to me in the sense of, okay, God, if you're calling me to do this, I will dream and be make bold choices for you. But I think we have to remember with vision, it's something that's so personal to us and so often just between you and the Lord. It's like if you were to ask someone else to look in the telescope that you were looking life through, you know, it's that we all have a very narrow vision of that has shaped our life experiences and the things we've been doing. And so naturally, people aren't always going to get it. But I think you have to surround yourself with people that speak life into you and can see the gifts in your life. And
that's huge.
Will be gentle enough to say, oh, maybe you should try this, or, you know, things like that. But then also having mentors in the fields that you're interested in who are one step ahead of you to actually say, you know, you can do it, and who've paved the way for you. And so for me, that's been really beneficial.
How essential is passion to the vision? Because let's be honest, passion is, I know it comes from deep within, but it's an emotion and it can wane through more difficult times of life, or where we just feel we're giving our best, we're showing up, we're being consistent, but the results are not there. Is passion an essential? And what do you do when passion isn't there?
Initially, it's what has driven me to do what I do, you know. I don't think it sustains you over the time. I think it can catapult you, but it doesn't keep you going, that passion. I think it has to be something deeper than that. I think for me it's purpose, and what I truly believe my purpose is, because you know, it's very easy to have passion for something when everything is going right.
Yeah.
When nothing is going right, is that passion really still keeping you? For some, it might. But for me, it's definitely purpose and what God has called me to do, and something that's really within. Purpose for me is more important than passion. I'm grateful that the passion is my purpose, you know, but a lot of people have passion for lots of things. Doesn't mean they should be doing that.
Pursuing it
fully. So for me, it's definitely the catapult step taken to where I am. But right now I'm striving after purpose. And that's what's really taking me deeper into the places where I believe God wants me to go. So, yeah.
What do you see with that, Georgia? What about the role of discipline in that? What about the role of discipline in purpose? Because passion is amazing.
Yeah.
So like you said, Rachel, it's such a driver. It can catapult you, but it can't always sustain you.
Yeah.
What about discipline in the middle of that?
That's great. Going back to your analogy of the farm and the farmer, I think you have to cultivate passion and purpose. And often it feels like God can just like give you a vision and then it's like, where are you? You've left me to it. And I don't know what the next step, because it's easy to start, especially as creatives. It's so hard to like keep going and build the momentum. So cultivating that for me looks like, I think it's coming back to the Lord and coming back to, okay, why have you placed me in this industry? And making it about the small steps rather than just the big steps. Okay, today, as I go and meet these people or as I go and do that audition, what do you want to do? What's your agenda? And how do you see that person? And show me how to have a heart for that person has been the way I've looked at it. But also, I think, like the gym analogy, you've got to be disciplined, and that means getting up when you don't want to, working hard on your craft. And so for me, as an actor, I've just got to keep training and keep working on that and being adaptable to if things aren't working, you know, got to spend more time on that. And so, you've got to remain focused in where you're looking, but also have the momentum to keep going and be tenacious.
Yeah.
Love that.
So I think, like, for me, just the big takeaway from our conversation and from listening to you both has been about not only about the vision and the specifics of the vision, but who we're becoming in the process. You know, for all of us, we can spend like years and years of our life working hard towards and achieving the thing that we've always dreamed of. And we may arrive there and just feel disappointed or like we sold out or we left our values behind. But who we're becoming in the process is huge. But not being afraid to dream the specific dream, have the vision, speak about it, write it down, or articulate it, put it on a vision board. But just knowing that if things aren't aligning with our vision board, that at the same time, that's not stripping away from our value. It's not that we've just taken a turn, but it's just trusting God in the middle of it, and the flexibility of that and knowing He's with us, I think is huge. So,
I agree.